What's up, guys? Chris Hayre with you on a brand new episode of Chargers Weekly. OTAs underway in Costa Mesa this week. And it's always a great day when I get to talk ball with my guy, Omar Ruiz, NFL Network. Omar, I got to see you in person on Monday. It was a welcome sight to finally get out to practice in person with everybody.
It was awesome, Chris. It was great to see you in person. It was great to see the team on the field in person. I can't recall, seeing, an OTA last year. Obviously, we didn't have any, and any of the training camp, we had to rely mostly on Zoom. So really, I think you go back to 2019 where you go out to the field and everything kind of felt a little bit normal. We were still wearing masks, per protocols and all the rules that we have to follow. But it seems like it had been a while, Chris, that we got to watch some ball and the guys throw the football around. And I think by the time the 2021 regular season rolls around, we should be seeing that on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And it just felt good. Obviously, there's not much you can really take from a lot of these practices, but it's good to see the veterans back in the building, mixing in with the rookies. We just had rookie minicamp a few weeks ago. I think the headliner, though, was the return of Derwin James to the practice field. Last Saturday, he said he was cleared for football activities, no setbacks. He's 100%. He's ready to go. What caught your ear in his press conference on Monday, Omar?
Well, several things, in fact. And I think what's more telling about his participation on Monday is when we were watching him, Chris, I noticed that he didn't sit out any plays. In all the plays that we were able to watch that were open to the media, he participated in every single play for the defense. And usually, for the fans that might be unfamiliar, usually, a big star like that will sit out and be substituted for every now and again. But Derwin was there. And that was before we found out that he had been officially medically cleared. And then after practice, right, Staley said that he had been in fact cleared. And then, so getting back to your question here, what stood out to me is when Derwin said, hey, I know I had some bad luck the last couple of years. That's all I'm going to label it as. I am still going full bore in this. I am not going to scale back myself. I need all the reps I can get. Essentially what he's saying is, I am a great player because I work at it and I don't take reps off, and I need all the reps I can get in practice. And that was very clear to us in watching him take every rep at that practice on Monday. And I think Brandon Staley, for his part, and the coaching staff and the medical staff and the sports performance, everybody coming together to collectively scale back some of the workouts and not go full bore in one-on-ones or in 11 and on 11 competition, make it more of a mental camp. So that way Derwin doesn't have to rein it in if he feels he has to. He can just go 100% mentally, get to where he needs to go, get all those reps on the field physically as hard as they are allowing, and recover to 100% come week one.
Omar, he's a tone setter, and that was dating back to his rookie year in 2018. The energy that he brings to all sides of the football, offense, defensive, special teams, when he's out there, that leadership quality was evident from week one of 2018. I think it's so important for him to set the tone, especially in a new defense. Everybody's learning a brand new scheme. He's gotten probably a little bit of an inside track, knowing Jalen Ramsey and having that relationship and getting a snapshot of what that could look like for him. But you make a great point. He was out there going full speed as much as you possibly can during OTAs. But it's almost like, I'm the leader too. Follow me. And everybody's got to get on the same page, because not only do we have a new coaching staff, we're learning a brand new scheme. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie, you're in year 4, or you're in year 10. We all got to get on the same page.
Yeah, showing that leadership. And I think another takeaway from his press conference was the fact that he said that he feels like he's a smarter player. And obviously, being on the sideline all of last year, he had time to go through those mental reps from the sideline and take the game more from a cerebral approach. Not that he didn't before, but obviously last year he was forced to in a way that he had never had. And so I think he came out feeling like he was a better player for that experience. And he said the game has slowed down for him. And so when you have a player who you said is as tone setting as it gets in the NFL. Already one of the best players. When he's been healthy, he's been just so electrifying. And he's just one of those players, even out of practice on Monday, one of those guys you just can't help take your eyes off of because of the way he moves and the way he anticipates and the way he reads the play and all of that. If he's even smarter and the game has slowed down for him, look out for Derwin James in 2021.
That was your question. And I thought that was the most striking to me because we talked about his injuries and, he said, I'm not the last guy that's going to get injured on a football field. But that struck me the most because it was so genuine and he wanted everyone to feel what he was feeling. He's just like, you have to see it in 2021, but the game has gotten slower for me. And that's a scary sight, frankly, for a 24-year-old player who was an all-pro his rookie year, that the game has gotten slower for him. So that was the headliner out of Costa Mesa this week. Omar, I haven't talked to you much since the beginning of this offseason when Brandon Staley was hired. So maybe if we could just go back to the beginning, just your initial thoughts when he was hired. You're plugged into this league, specifically on the West Coast. I know you covered Coach Staley in LA with the Rams and what he was able to do as a defensive coordinator. Did you have an inkling just talking to him last year and then the combination of that and the performance by the defense that we could see a rise like this coming from him?
I didn't. I mean, when he started to be circulated, his name, in different reports that he was in fact a candidate after leading that Rams to the number one ranked defense, it was somewhat of a surprise given his limited experience based on his resume alone. However, when you go back to even the first press conference I ever sat in with him when he was first hired as defensive coordinator for the Rams, he is just so impressive in how he speaks and how he communicates. And he references back to his parents being coaches and teachers and that ability to communicate and lead in that way. When you think about his experience and the results that he's had on the field, it is not surprising that he has climbed the ladder so quickly. The results speak for themselves. His ability to connect immediately with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, two of the best players in the NFL, would have Chargers fans, I believe, thinking that he's going to connect the same way, like you mentioned, with Derwin James and Joey Bosa and the rest of the monsters on that defense. And then he played quarterback in college and all the experience he had on that side of the ball ought to give him, a pretty good scope on what he can bring to the table with Justin Herbert and the offense, and obviously given the input for Joe Lombardi as offensive coordinator there. So he's an impressive guy. Just, he had that same Sean McVay capability where he calls everybody by name when he's answering questions and really is thorough about it and thoughtful. So surprising from where he started the year as a head coaching candidate, the way it all ended, but kind of when you think about it and analyze it and the results that have followed wherever he's gone, not a surprise. And I think he'll do very well there.
It's been enjoyable just to hear him talk. I think his first press conference went 90 plus minutes. Every time he speaks, you could see and just feel his passion for football. He just wants to talk ball. And
you know what I love, Chris? I know you're a hoops fan too. Is he always gives these basketball analogies.
Yes.
Whenever he's talking about playing one-on-one or playing pickup at the Y or any of those, that kind of gets my juices going because
Yes.
Obviously we never played in the NFL, but we've all played hoops. Pickup games and all that sort of stuff. So you can kind of relate to that a little bit, the way he makes those analogies and kind of puts you in the heart of that competition. The way he illustrates, he talks, and I'm sure he's the same way when he's communicating in meetings to his players. He finds a way to connect with them. And I think that's the sign of a true leader, a sign of a good coach. And, probably one of those reasons why he has had a significant track record and why he's become a head coach so quickly.
It's funny. I think we've had a Warriors reference so far. I think an old 80s Cavaliers reference, a 72-10 Bulls reference. So yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of NBA references from Coach Staley. And then, this offseason, it's been about protecting Justin Herbert first and foremost. We know what Justin did last year. He's coming off reigning offensive rookie of the year. But to bring in Corey Linsley and then Matt Filer, Ode Ibushi, you hope Ryan Bulaga can kind of return to form. He was injured a lot last year. You draft Rashawn Slater. They sprinkled in, make no mistake, other pieces on the roster, up and down the roster. But the offensive line, Omar, that was priority A. And now you look at what Justin Herbert has in front of him, it's almost completely new.
Yeah, and I think it's an upgrade, frankly, in terms of availability. I think, that a lot of these younger guys who have shown, some durability early in their careers, hopefully that'll continue here in 2021. You'd like to think that would lead to some cohesion there. But I think no matter how good your quarterback is, Patrick Mahomes included, and we saw this in the Super Bowl, if you can't protect your quarterback, he's not going to have much success, and it's not going to lead to winning games. And obviously we saw that. As electrifying as Justin is, and he was in that rookie year, and well-deserved all the praise he got and all the records he set, they were 7-9. And obviously they want to be much better than that. And of course, injuries on both sides of the ball didn't help, but it gets back to protecting that franchise quarterback. And it's interesting because a lot of people say that, the Buccaneers, they created the blueprint for slowing down the Chiefs. And I was like, no, they didn't. We know how you could slow down Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. They had 2 Pro Bowl tackles there that were hurt during the playoff run. And so it's a lot easier to execute that game plan when you don't have a premier offensive line protecting one of those elite quarterbacks. And I think the Chargers have Justin Herbert, someone who is on his way to being in that high upper echelon elite quarterback, and certainly Tom Telesco recognizing that to protect him will accentuate his success.
Justin had success even with some of the offensive line issues last year, but every season is independent, right? So we'll see how this new look offensive line looks. Really, Omar, starting week 1 against perhaps the best defensive line in football in Washington, we get to see Rashawn Slater versus Chase Young again. You got Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. Talk about a first test for this offensive line, week 1 in DC, man.
Yeah, that was the game that jumped out to me. I mean, beyond the obvious ones, Buccaneers hosting the season opener against the Cowboys and that. But I thought this game was the sneaky good game of the week, given that you have the reigning offensive and defensive rookies of the year going off with Herbert and Young. And then you mentioned Young and Slater going against each other, renewing that Ohio State Northwestern rivalry. And if folks remember back in that game in 2019, I believe it was, when Northwestern and Rashawn Slater held his own against Chase Young, and that really put him on the map in terms of elite football prospects for the NFL. And sure enough, that led to him being, an upper echelon first round pick in this past draft. So it'll be nice to see them renew acquaintances. And you mentioned all those first rounders on defense for Washington obviously won a weak division last year with that 7-9 record, but I think they're counting in a big way that defense to make a huge jump. As good as it was last year, they're counting on making a significant jump and being one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. So that revamped Chargers offensive line will get tested right away. And of course, all the weapons that Herbert has on his disposal. It'll be fun to watch, that's for sure. And Fitzmagic is going to try to pull something out of his hat. It'll be a good test for the Chargers defense as well.
It's a great way to kick things off. Then the Cowboys come to SoFi week 2. Then you get into the division. And that's where I kind of want to shift gears towards, Omar. This AFC West, we talked about what the Chargers have done to upgrade the roster this offseason. It still starts with the Chiefs. The Broncos seem to have made a lot of good moves. The quarterback situation, I think, still in question mark. The Las Vegas Raiders have made a lot of different moves. Just your assessment of the AFC West as we sit here at the end of May.
Yeah, well, I think the Chiefs addressed, what became very apparent in the playoffs, that offensive line had maybe aged out a little bit, become a little more injury prone, and trading for Orlando Brown, a blockbuster type of talent to protect Patrick Mahomes, and getting Austin Blythe and a lot of that depth, and getting Chris Long,
Kyle Long. Yeah.
Kyle Long out of retirement, obviously was a Pro Bowler with the Bears 3 times. We'll see what he has left after a year off from football, but obviously revamping those tools. And I think, defensively, offensively, the weapons are still in place, and they've structured those contracts Brett Veach has, so that they do have that core in place again. But it was about protecting Patrick Mahomes, just like we talked about with Justin Herbert. And the Chiefs have addressed that, and I think are still the prohibitive favorites in the AFC West, if not the entire AFC.
And then the Denver Broncos and the Raiders, where's the gap there, you think, when it comes to the Chiefs? Obviously, you're looking at Kansas City. I think the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders, you could argue, I think, a couple of different things there. But Denver, outside of the quarterback position, man, they've done a lot to upgrade that roster. And we'll see what happens with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I do like that it's a wide open quarterback competition, and it's going to be 50-50 in training camp, and may the best man win. But I think for either quarterback, I think you go back to Minnesota and Teddy Bridgewater, him getting them to the playoffs early in his career and having pretty good success before the knee injury. He had pretty good teams. And then the team sort of, kind of went through a recycling, rebuilding type of mode. And Teddy obviously wasn't a part of that post-injury, and then wasn't much of a roster there in Carolina after he played with a 5-0 record in New Orleans for Drew Brees when he had a talented roster. So
people forget
I think there won't be any more excuses. Teddy Bridgewater, can try to establish himself as a bona fide starter here with that roster around him. And it's the same thing with Drew Lock. I think he'll have the best roster in his career for the Broncos this year. Cortland Sutton, they hope comes back 100%, and obviously was prolific in 2019 and rebuilding that defense. Von Miller coming back healthy, Bradley Chubb, them getting together at the same time, for a full season, and they hope leads to a lot of success, and Vic Fangio puts it all together. But either way, for that quarterback, no excuses. And then I think you guys are very familiar with, what the Raiders defense might be capable of with Gus Bradley and Ron Miles and some of the other staff members that had called Chargers home the last few years. And then Casey Hayward and Yannick Ngakoue trying to improve. So I think, for the Raiders, it's how quickly that defense can improve under Gus Bradley. For the Broncos, it's how good can that offense be with, a couple of question marks at quarterback. And then for the Chargers, I think there's no question about the talents, how healthy can they be, which is seemingly the question it's been the last few years, because I think on paper, the Chargers have the second most talented roster, but, can they all stay on the field for the full 16 games? So a lot of questions there with a wide range of variables and success rates, but I think they all can make a case if things go and bounce the right way for them to be right there with the Chiefs in the division, which makes it for Chris a completely wide open division, a competitive, and one that has the makings of, one of those type of divisions where all four teams are knocking on the door for a playoff spot, come week 14, 15, 16, 17, and this year 18 in the playoff.
Can you believe that? Exactly. I gotta get used to having 10-6 and 8 and 9 and 7 out the window now. We got 17 games now with that record. I'm with you, and I think this. When you look at the end of the year, and this is what I want to get you out of here on just talking about SoFi Stadium, but you look at the end of the year, Chargers Chiefs week 15, Thursday night football at SoFi Stadium. The one thing we don't know right now is health. And if the Chargers are healthy, I think there's no doubt that they can contend in the West and at least contend for a wild card spot. But it's all going to be contingent on health. And we don't know what's going to happen from now till the end of training camp, yet alone week 1. So all these things are kind of out of our control right now as we talk about this. But just as we get into the season, Omar, your excitement level for SoFi Stadium and actually seeing that thing full of fans. The Chargers have 3 primetime games this year. Raiders on Monday Night Football week 4, I believe week 11 against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and then that week 15 matchup I mentioned against the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be surreal, I think. I mean, I think those of us who have been in it just rave about it. It is just a perfect place to watch a game, and I can only imagine how cool it's going to be when the stadium is full and it is rocking and they are making noise and the thunderous applause or boos are raining down. And I'm curious to see what the acoustics will be like with the fans making an impact on the game on third down, because Chris,
it's already loud in there, right? It was loud
with all that artificial sound, but the way the stadium is laid out, it's dug into the ground. So it's a bowl-like atmosphere. So, it seems like the crowd is yelling down, and all that sound is going to be held down below there, the actual, surface, for the rest of the facility. So I'm curious to see how that, the acoustics will reverberate there, and what sort of impact the fans can actually make on the game. But yeah, it's one of a kind. The whole world is going to be able to see it at the Super Bowl end of next season. And I think, for the Chargers, what a way to kick off than America's team coming in, and Jerry Jones and the traveling circus that is. And then hopefully, for them, even for the Rams, I keep saying, wouldn't it be phenomenal for the LA Super Bowl to have both LA teams playing in it? That'd be some way to finish the season. But a lot to get to before then. But I just can't wait for not only fans in Southern California to see it firsthand and experience what you and I have been able to experience thus far, and then the whole world to see it come Super Bowl Sunday in February. It's going to be a fun season, Chris. Can't wait to get back. Can't wait to have the fans fully rocking, interacting with them. Hopefully we get to be down on the sidelines once again. And golly, I don't know if there has ever been a season that's been more anticipated and a lot of excitement building towards than this one.
As we talk about this too, like we're in May right now. Like I want to get out there right now. Like even just the thought, Omar, of a Chargers Rams Super Bowl. Could you imagine like just the storylines there with McVay and Staley?
Yes. All of that.
It's a podcast, so we're allowed to dream a little bit here in May. But I can't wait. It's always a pleasure talking to you, my man. You do such a great job on NFL Network. What do you have going on over the next couple of months as we kind of hit this slower period before training camp?
Yeah, I'll still pop into the studio and do some total accesses and, some news information, manning the desk in case there's any breaking news happening. We'll be popping out at different OTAs and mini camps. So we'll still have everything covered, all things NFL all the time. NFL Network, and then really with that July 27th announcement that training camps will begin throughout the league uniformly, with the exception of a few teams that are playing in the Hall of Fame game, and of course the Buccaneers playing that Thursday game. It's the Steelers, Cowboys, and Buccaneers have that exception, but everybody else, July 27th, NFL Network will be all over. We'll be at every camp, and we'll be all guns blazing, ready for the 2021 season.
Well, I know I will see you out at Chargers camp, no doubt, in July. I can't thank you enough for your time. And hey, man, let's get to the season sooner than later.
Yeah, man. I look forward to seeing you in person at a game this year. And Chris, always a pleasure to be with you. Always great to see you. Look forward to seeing you again here soon.